I'm Love, and I am the host of Under the Influencer, a new podcast where we share with you with experts who have ventured into social media successfully. And so today I am honored to have Ian Agrimis. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
All
perfect.
right. Ian from Agrimis Adventures, and we'll have that in the caption. Tell us what you do. You were a lot. You're a jack of all trades. Your media kit must be very extensive because you're a videographer. You have your own podcast. You have a really huge following on Instagram. You work with many very large companies, and we're going to tap into all of those subjects. So I do have to ask some of the main questions that I do ask are. All about your Instagram game. Today we're going to talk about your Instagram game because that's where I'm at. Um,
Yeah.
when did you venture into Instagram?
Good question. Boy, it was my freshman year of college. I distinctly remember making my Instagram, which would have been 2011. I think unlike a lot of people these days, I don't consider myself an influencer, even though I do have a following. I would say I'm more of a filmmaker that happens to have some influence. Um, so that the I'm not like trying to do brand deals as my main focus of bringing in revenue. My focus is on video production and creating video assets for clients. As a result of that, I have been able to travel to some pretty cool places, have some pretty amazing experiences, and share those with people. So, whether it's collaring elephants in Africa or exploring Easter Island, um, chasing people around a kind of amazing race style um, capture the flag challenge in the Bahamas. I'm super grateful for a lot of these crazy experiences I've been able to have as a result of the cameras in my hand. So it's been a cool ride. And I mean, it's very cliche to say, but just getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to clarify, yes, I tell everyone, hey, I have this podcast. I want you to be on it. Like I want you to help me out, or I talk about it. And then the minute I say it's under the influencer, it's about influencers. Everyone's like, no, 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 I'm not an influencer. No, I'm not. I do this for the love of it. I don't do this for contracts. And
Mm-hmm.
many people do it for many different things. The reason I love, okay, so the story behind the name is coming from the aviation industry. We love our drinks, not unfortunately, but with you're in the West Coast, and so we are. It's a little early, so we are not going to be drinking, but it is going to air on Thursday night.
Okay.
So the the premise of that name is really just to show people that no matter what you do, you are an influencer. Like you sending out those positive vibes, you're influencing people to live positive lives, sending those great brand marketing snippets, you are influencing companies to hire you. And so that's what I mean by influencing. And I think the word
Absolutely.
influencer is good. I yeah, to look at me, like I say the same thing. I go, I'm not an influencer, I'm an ambassador, because the things that the products and the services and the companies that I represent, I actually, for my brand, I actually have to love them. I have to have fallen in love with them before I represent them. And that's how I can guarantee my marketing,
Right.
so
I'm
yeah, I
very much
totally.
aligned with you on that.
Anyway, moving along, you have a new podcast.
I do. Yeah. Up in the Air podcast every
Yes.
Wednesday. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and if
All the
if you're not listening on one of those platforms, shoot me a DM on Instagram, and you can lobby for it to be put on another.
Tell me about it. Like, who have you invited so far? You have an extensive list of guests.
Yeah. So it's not to say that people who've done travel podcasts haven't done a good job, but I looked around the travel podcast space and I felt like there was a void where just in general, the quality of storytelling was not very high. And if anybody knows who knows anything about travel, knows one thing, it's that travel leads to some of the best stories you can have. So for me, I thought this was a huge kind of void, and I wanted to talk to people who I knew had really interesting travel experiences, interesting stories, who could just talk about their experience and their life. So I wanted to focus on people with different perspectives on travel, with a little bit of an emphasis on frequent flying. Um, that's a passion of mine, in that I'm really big into earning miles, airline miles, and credit card points, and using those to fly all over the world, have crazy experiences. And I know that a lot of people who travel frequently, there's a huge variety of interest in that. A lot of people focus on it a lot. They're like crazy about earning their miles and points. Other people travel hundreds of thousands of miles a year and they don't really even give it two thoughts. So I've spoken with people all over the spectrum. I've spoken to the world's most frequent flyer, a guy named Tom Stuker, spoken with the points guy, spoken with bodyguard of celebrities and kind of corporate protection, who his name was Will Geddes. He's been to Iraq and Afghanistan, worked in Mexico, worked in some of the most kind of bizarre environments that you could imagine. He's got some crazy stories about doing so. Spoken to pilots, and then of course I've spoken with you. So it's been a great experience, and I think it's totally opened my eyes to how diverse the world of travel is, which I mean shouldn't have been a surprise, but everybody has such a unique take on it. So it's been really cool to
It's
hear everybody's
amazing, right?
perspective.
Just right. Everyone's lens is different, whether from a pilot, a frequent flyer as a bodyguard, or a flight attendant, or you know, uh, like the points guy. It's so different. I learned so many new things every day, and that's why I mean I love talking about travel. We are fanatics. Like we are a
Absolutely. I mean,
few
I
that.
I track that stuff like crazy. I mean, I know every year for the last 5 or 6 years how many miles I flew, how many hours I was in a plane, things like that. That's definitely overkill. Um, I don't really know what purpose that serves other than just to inform my own passion, but that hopefully shows the level at which I pay attention. I use this service called Flight um, Flight
Like
Radar.
tracker?
It's called my.flightradar.com, and it was actually just purchased by Flight Radar 24, which is like a big aircraft tracking website, but it used to be called My Flight Diary. Um,
Ah,
I've been using it for almost 10 years. So I've logged every
wow.
single flight that I've taken since 2011. And it's really crazy when you've used a service like that for that long, the trends that you can start to see. And um, also, kind of unfortunately, like the amount of pollution that you have
Yep.
contributed and things like that. So, but it's a cool tool, and if you put in the time to input your flight data, it's like a really interesting schematic to look at.
It's fascinating. I'm not on that, but so for my daughter, she's half German. Her father is in Germany, who works for an airline as well, and we tracked it in the first year, and then we just continue to track it like 104, 105, 650, 675, 700, 750, and here we are tracking all of these flights, the mileage, and it's just so fascinating to me, like just to tag on, tally on one more flight, two more flights. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun whenever you add them in and you see how those numbers adjust. That's a good question. I think for me, the part that I enjoy the most is really just being able to look back at a year, see the map of everywhere I've been, and to kind of understand how that map represents the experiences that I had that year, how that is representative of growth in my business, different directions I decided to focus on. Um, and that can be represented in certainly where I went, but also the number of flights, frequency of certain routes, things like that. So It's a really interesting tool.
Great. So let's talk about your business. You have a wonderful, and when I say wonderful, I've looked at it. It's like you've gone from safaris to luxury brands to airlines, to working with banks. Tell us about Capture Unlimited.
Yeah, so Capture Unlimited is the name of my media company, and it's the platform that I've used to work with brands like you mentioned and travel all over. So I think my biggest project last year was that I produced and hosted, shot and edited a series for the Points Guy, which hopefully your readers or listeners rather will be familiar with. So that was a series that um, the premise of that series was to basically show people that there are a bunch of amazing experiences you could have with your miles and points. So we picked 10 great redemptions to make and then paired that with a cool adventure. And, the hope was that people would be able to see this body of work, see this series and go, okay, I really like that one in Africa. I really like that one in Turkey. I really like that one in Doha. Pick one and work towards learning how to earn the points necessary to make it happen. So one of my favorite episodes actually was going to Doha, Qatar, and the premise of the episode was to try and finance absolutely everything using credit card miles and and credit card perks. So we bought the tickets with airline miles, paid for the hotel with bank points, used some of the perks on the various cards that I have to cover a lot of the charges, be it Uber, be it airport transfers. I'm trying to remember all the things here. Um, the hotel food at the hotel was included in the rate. So I think we were there for I want to say 4 nights. It might have been 3. So you can go back and look at it. But and spent my buddy and we spent like $300 total. 5-star hotel,
Wow.
business class flights, and we had a pretty cool experience in Doha. And I think I just want to contribute to this notion that it's possible to travel as a young person, have amazing, and amazing could be defined in many different ways, but have amazing, luxurious experiences for very little out of pocket. Because I mean, I think that traveling is a very, very beneficial way to spend your time, particularly as a young person. I think the way it influences your perspective on life and on the world is invaluable. And I think that there is a bit of a perception out there that it you either have to be like backpacking and do it as cheaply as possible, or it's just too expensive to be possible for a lot of people in the workforce. And I just kind of want to try and debunk that notion. So that was that was part of what the goal of that particular episode was, but really the whole series was to show people that you don't have to be a millionaire to, first of all, kind of travel like one, or to travel at all.
Right. And that's what I do on my channel as well. Not to the extent that where you curate dreams, travel dreams, but just show people like basically what there is to do in certain cities, but at minimal cost, with them being the experiences being luxurious,
I
so
mean, if you take out for most people, I think if you take out the cost of flights and the cost of hotels, you instantly should wipe off at least half of the cost of most of your travel. So if that doesn't meaningfully impact your ability to travel more, um, you probably should reevaluate your finances in other ways. I mean, it's totally fine if travel is not a priority, but I
right.
think for those who would like to travel more, if you could reduce that cost by at least 50%, I would assume that it would allow you to have more experiences like that. So I would
You know,
love to help people learn how to do that.
Well, do you know, like I remember I was 23 years old a long time ago, and I remember just wanting to travel the world and not having money. And I remember traveling all the way to Italy. I love traveling to Italy. I would go to Italy, paid for hotel, but I would literally have a croissant and coffee in the morning. a slice of pizza in the afternoon when I got hungry, which at the time was like, I think €1.50. It was much cheaper then. And then for dinner, I would have that pasta dish, and it didn't have to be at those, lavish five-star restaurants, and a glass of wine. You
Hmm.
can do that in certain countries, and to me, that was luxurious because I didn't have money, but now, with the working class, whether you're in your 20s or 30s, being able to do that using points or using just the, and I've glanced at your stuff, but just the tricks that you show people, it's amazing. I mean, you really are curating dreams,
Yeah,
so
I would hope so. I think, um, you know, look, like I said, if travel's not a priority for you, fine, fair, so be it. But I think that, like I said, there are a lot of merits to it, and that it should be. I'm biased, but I think it should be. Um, a lot of people just don't understand, and that credit cards offer a ton of value. And sure, you could get a Nordstrom card and get whatever it is, 5% back on your purchases you make there. But, if you're even a high spender, that's not going to give you much actual value at the end of every year.
you know what else I found? An old article. I don't think it was the beginning of this year, maybe last year. I could be wrong with the dates, but the points guy, TPG, put out an article with the best credit cards for business travelers, families, um, uh, single travel, solo travelers, um, the average traveler, and he spit out, well, the points guy spit out all the benefits with each credit card, and I thought that was pretty amazing,
Yeah.
to have that resource for those that are actually needing um, that information.
Yes.
So
What I was going to say is, so you could open this Nordstrom card, right? You get maybe at most a couple $100 back in a year. I just want to show people that what you could also do is open a credit card with a bank, particularly, Chase, Capital One, Citi, Amex. And first of all, they offer much bigger bonus categories on things that everybody spends on: food, be it dining or grocery, gas, shipping, travel. These are all things that people spend their money on anyway. Utilities, cell phone bill. You can earn bonus points on that. And then the thing that most people don't understand, like literally 95% of people, and it's quite simple. If you have bank points, Chase, Amex, Citi, they all do this. You can transfer those points directly to an airline. And what that allows you to do is earn points more quickly than you would be able to from either just flying with that airline or from using their own credit card. So, for example, Chase partners with United. And if you have the United Explorer card, and excuse me, I don't remember exactly what every bonus category on the card is right now. I think they maybe give you 2 points per dollar on dining, and it's like 3 points per dollar on United airfare. Well,
right.
you can do much better than that with another card and then transfer those points directly to the airline. So at the end of the day, you're spending the same amount of money out of your pocket, but you're earning much more points. And those points can be directly transferred to the airline to be used for the same redemptions that you would have used with just the United miles you had earned in the first place. So, a lot of people do ask, okay, how do you earn that many points? And sure, I have 16 credit cards. That helps. I'm not advocating everybody to go out and get that many, but find the credit card products that fit your spending style and utilize the bonuses that exist within them, because it's not rocket science. And companies like the Points Guy have hundreds of articles, literally probably even thousands, on exactly how to do what I just described. And it's really quite simple. So I urge people who have an interest in it to dig a little deeper.
See, ladies and gentlemen, this is why you have to watch Ian or get on his channels so you can learn really good information like this, So, okay, let's ask some fun questions. Favorite airline?
Favorite airline? That's a good question. Domestically, my favorite airline to fly is Alaska. I love their loyalty program. I love just honestly the culture there, the customer service. I've I've had status with them for a couple of years. I haven't used it this year, but
No one has.
yeah, but I think they're great, and they have amazing partners, global airline partners worldwide. So their miles are very valuable. I think globally, if I had to pick one airline that I've had really stellar experiences on in multiple classes of service, not just first class, business class, but also in economy, it would have to be Qatar Airways.
Hmm.
Their fleets are full of extremely new planes. Um, for long haul flights in economy, you're getting amenity kits. I mean, it's really well done. Now, they are basically funded by the government of Qatar, so they have a bit more help than you would see with many private airlines, or airlines that are, purely based in private industry worldwide. So it's not necessarily the most fair comparison, but at the end of the day, I think they do a great job.
What's the craziest thing you've ever done for a post, picture, article? I did see a snippet of you in Ho Chi Minh on a bike with a selfie stick, which a lot of people do, but I don't think I'm that daring to do that, to be able to do that.
Um, wait, what? The
It,
uh,
so on your website, you have an
oh wow,
experience.
yeah, right, right, yeah. What's the craziest thing I've done for a post? Or man, that's a good question. I mean, look, I so for my 25th birthday, I like kind of started to get my feet under me in the professional in the professional sense. I had I had been working at GoPro, but I got laid off and I had started my own company and I was starting to kind of pick up some traction. And so for my 25th birthday, I wanted to indulge this hobby that I had really kind of gotten into, be it the miles and points. So I booked a trip to South Africa with two buddies to just kind of go and create content. And I flew there round trip business class. I think out of pocket I spent $250 on
Nice.
my airfare, which was just like the combined taxes and
Right.
fees of all the tickets combined. But yeah, we spent almost a week in Cape Town, running around, hiking up, the mountains for sunset and sunrise, um, shooting all sorts of stuff. And I feel like we also got there right before people started going to that beach with the penguins.
Oh, yeah.
So, obviously we knew about it, but it wasn't quite as prolific as it is today. So, at the time I was shooting a lot of 360 content with like a big 360 camera. It looked like a soccer ball. It was like the size of your head. Um, so, we spent like 2 hours at this beach and I had the camera set up in the middle of, in this beach, which is full of penguins, which is the craziest thing. I don't know if you've been there, but, um,
No.
anyway, set the camera down, let it record, walked around the corner hoping that the penguins would kind of start to act normally again without the presence of people. And anyway, came back a few minutes later, stopped the recording, later looked at the footage, and like these penguins came out of the woodwork, kind of swarmed around the camera and got real curious. And it was some of the craziest footage that I
Wow.
captured, just
Can
because you got this
imagine.
camera, real high quality 8K 360 camera, and you can really like look around the whole image, watch these penguins getting nice and close. And it was one of those moments where I was like, this is awesome, this is exactly what we came here for. And then particularly for me, with icing on the cake being just how much of a validation of my interest and investment in this hobby, being miles and points, was to kind of go there and have this crazy experience. So I would say hopefully that qualifies.
Yeah, that's amazing. What have you done with that content?
That that particular penguin content, well, I did end up working with a brand on that trip. So I shot some stuff that was that went into an asset for that brand, which was called Virtual Therapeutics. And they kind of use virtual reality, either video games, augmented reality as well, and video, purely video, to kind of provide a therapeutic experience for people who are, stuck in a hospital. They're going through
Wow.
certain
Hmm.
kinds of treatment, and they just want to kind of escape. And so they can put on a 360 headset and do exactly that by watching this footage. So it was that was really cool, actually, knowing that I was capturing that moment, not only for
Imagine.
me and my own records, but oh my gosh, now this is cool because I can deliver this content to my client, who can then provide it to people who I think will just really enjoy being able to experience this with the penguins, and hopefully have a lot of the same enjoyment that I did out of from being there. Um,
Absolutely.
but I did do one other thing with the footage, which was, um, if you're familiar with the movie Office Space,
Hmm.
um, there's that amazing song, and of course the title is eluding me right now, but it's like the hardcore gangster rap song that starts in the beginning of the movie. It plays throughout a couple times, but I cut all the footage to that song of the penguins and like made them look like really hardcore.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, people like that. So that was a fun one.
Where can we find that?
That particular edit, I think, is in my highlight stories somewhere on my feed.
Okay.
There's also some photos definitely in my feed. That was that trip was in late 2017. So the content made it on there around then and then into early 2018. So
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah, if people want to
2018.
dig back through, they can find it there.
That's awesome. And then, so what are some of your favorite posts on Instagram?
Some of my favorite posts, it's a little cliche to say, but they're the ones that have allowed me to be the most in the moment. And I think ultimately that's, kind of what Instagram would want you to say,
Right.
that you just whipped out your phone and you captured a moment as it
Mhm.
happened. You were in the moment. And then of course it helps as a content producer when that content does do quite well. Um, I was here in San Diego with a friend of mine named Aaron Weiss, and we had been using Flight Radar, that website I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
to track some flights coming in because there's this crazy parking garage in downtown San Diego, and it's right at the base of the runway. It's got to be 8 to 10 stories tall, which is pretty rare,
Hmm.
I would say, for a building right at the base of a runway. So, and I mean, it is literally probably 300 yards from the very start of the runway. So it's kind of bizarre. The planes come in, they fly right over the top. So we were tracking some incoming flights that day because we wanted to be on the top of this parking garage when they flew over. And we wanted to be there when like the big planes were coming in, like the A330, 767, 777. And at the time, British Airways was flying their 747 to San Diego. This was in February. So we're driving over to the parking garage. We had been shooting some stuff at the beach earlier in the day, and we're a little bit late. We drive all the way to the top. We park the car. We look, on the horizon, and sure enough, the plane's coming in. So we didn't really have any time to test out the shot we wanted to get. We were just like, okay, you sit there, plane will fly this way, and we'll just kind of film it. And ended up getting this epic shot just with the iPhone, used the slow motion mode right as the plane flew right over the top, kind of like went in between the sun, or it eclipsed the sun, and it was just like this beautiful shot that happened super naturally, and the experience was also crazy. So that was a pretty special piece of content to capture, and it did really well too. I think people were um, amazed. People relate to that content from phones so much better than they do from like a really high end professional camera, because it just instantly puts that barrier up between
Mhm.
you and the audience, where it's like, okay, this content is really cool, but it was clearly captured by
Right.
a professional or with some degree of skill. There's no way I could do that or capture that. And I think it like some people have trouble relating to content that looks that way. But yeah, this was just shot with iPhone, which was cool.
That just gave me chills because, to get that perfect plane shot, I mean, I don't know how many plane pictures you have in your in your phone, in your, in your drive, but I've like maybe 20,000
Yeah,
trying
I've
to
got
get the
thousands.
right shot, trying to get the exact perfect shot. And then when it happens like this, like again, I'm getting chills. When it happens like this, so, uncalculated, um, you just feel like a winner, And
Absolutely.
so I get it. And then of course there's so many planned, you know, pieces of content that just don't ever happen,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Or, it just ends up being way less exciting than you thought it was going to be.
Right.
And
Right.
there's definitely something to the notion of just letting it happen and not trying to plan too much, but at the same time, needing to definitely make sure you have some of the bases covered from a planning perspective. But you can definitely over plan, and then nothing kind of happens naturally, which is definitely a problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that goes into these whether it's pictures or videos or, even articles. And a lot of people don't realize for me being on Instagram, they say, for a picture, I go, do you know what I had to do for that picture? I had to research and research and research and get there early. And, it's funny. So
Yeah,
you
and of
talked
course,
about,
it's never just one photo.
oh
You're
no,
picking the best of a bunch, and it represents, at least several hours of work and trying to, accurately represent an experience. So there's a reason why some people are really good at doing that, and it's because it's a result of a lot of time and experience, trial and error, trying to capture those
indeed,
experiences. And there's
indeed.
absolutely a difference between people who are very good at that and people who are just starting out, or who kind of think they want to dip their feet in. And there's a huge difference in quality. So I'm definitely an advocate for people being paid for their work.
Absolutely.
And for, not just doing it for free for a free stay or a free, flight, because uh yeah, there's a lot of people in the industry who
Absolutely.
work really hard to capture that stuff in a professional way.
Absolutely. So you talked about the South Africa experience. What is one of the craziest trips that you've ever had? Um, let's say, I guess, spur of the moment wise.
Well, um I had two friends move to Sweden in 2018 for a brief period of time. And so kind of, again, I knew, okay, that's a cool experience to go there and visit them, and kind of live like a local. They got an apartment there.
Yeah.
So we went there, and I was able to pair it with some client work. But I had pitched this. I had been doing, like we were saying, a lot of research on crazy locations in Sweden, and I'd come across this bizarre photo of, it was like a cave. It was a cave, but really it was like a mine. It was an old mine, and it had been abandoned for like 100 years above ground. But you had to go through this mine shaft, and then you'd kind of come out into this exposed cavern. And I saw some photos of it in the winter, and you've got these crazy icicles coming down the mine wall in all directions. And it was just this. It looked like something out of the set on Lord of the Rings. I mean, really,
Wow.
it was super bizarre. So, I thought, okay, let me see if I could pitch that to some companies and see if there'd be some interest in using that location. So we ended up getting all that signed off on, and went to Sweden, spent some time in Stockholm, and then drove up to the area of Sweden that this was in. It was like, must have been 4 hours outside of Stockholm. So it's a bit of a drive, and it's in the middle of nowhere. But got a hotel much closer to the stop. Anyway, it was February. It was cold. And so my buddy and I and his girlfriend at the time, we took this. We walk from our car through this forest and find the gate to the mine shaft. And I had kind of like been in touch with the tourism authority of that county of Sweden, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna send this guy out. He's gonna open it up for you." And we get there. and he unlocks the gate, but the bottom of the gate is like stuck in a layer of ice. So like, sure, the gate's open, but you can't budge the gate. So at first we try to like chip it
Oh my
open
gosh.
with the shovel, but clearly that's not going to work. So we actually realized, well, if you did climb over the top, you could kind of shimmy through this little gap. And so we're like, okay, that's the plan. And then, we could see through the mine
Oh my
shaft
goodness.
into the mine, and it was maybe like 30 yards. And it was all the ground was all frozen. There was just, it had clearly been full of water, and but it froze over.
Oh my God.
So my buddy jumps over, so he jumps over, and before I jump over, he kind of starts walking in, and then after like maybe 10 steps, one of his feet just like plunges through the
Oh
ice.
no.
But it wasn't like hard, like a hard layer of ice. It was like slushy almost.
Oh no.
Kind of hard to describe, but it wasn't like he fell into a pond or something. And so anyway, he's like, well, I think it's okay. I hop over, girlfriend hops over, and we like start making our way through this mine shaft. And of course, exactly in the middle, it's the least frozen. And
Oh
it's
my
really
gosh.
this like slushy substance. And it's like 8 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And we're in the middle of this mine shaft. Our feet go through all the way under and get soaked.
Oh no.
And the plan is to like go into the mine, shoot some stuff, and then leave. But it's 8 degrees. So we're like, okay, well, this is too cool. We came too far. We got to get in there. Our feet are already wet. So we keep going the rest of the way, get in there. And it's like, okay, we got to take our shoes off and like wring out our socks because it is like so wet. So we do that, take our shoes off, and it's freezing cold. And I mean, if you know anything about being cold, you want to have wool because wool keeps you warm even when it's
Right.
wet. So luckily had wool socks.
Good.
We run around, we shoot some stuff, but it's like starting to get a little bit sketchy. Like our toes are getting unbearably cold. And so we have to trek back through the mine shaft. So we do the same thing, feet get soaked, have to climb over this fence once again, and then have like a half-mile walk through the forest to get back to the car. And it was starting to get a little bit hairy there, with people just being superbly uncomfortable. And it took my big toe many, many hours to regain feeling.
I
And
can
now,
imagine.
it was probably bordering on frostbite, but now whenever I go out in like a really cold environment, my big toe gets cold before anything else. So
Oh
a
wow.
little bit of lasting damage from that experience, but
Totally worth it
I would say worth it for the story.
for the story. Yeah. You live for moments like that and stories like that.
Yeah.
But guys, so this is Ian. He is the epitome of living the dream and working to your passions. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we get off?
Oh, good question. I do want to just preface one thing that I said. I think there's with credit cards, there's definitely a lot of misinformation out there,
Mhm.
but it is really important to consider credit scores. That's an important piece of getting approved for credit cards, and it's useful in applying for loans, for other things, for houses. Don't go out there and just blindly apply for 6 credit cards.
Right.
Learn up on it because it's totally doable to have that many, but you have to do it incrementally and slowly. And actually, because of the way that credit scores work, and they are largely calculated based on how much credit you use of the credit that's been given to you by banks. So if you have one credit card and your credit limit is several $1,000s, if you spend $1,500, $2,000 a month, well, then you're using half of your available credit. That makes you look like a bit of a risk to a bank.
Mhm.
But the more credit cards that you have, and of course, the caveat being that you're paying the balance off in full on all these cards every month, that's important. Otherwise,
Right.
you're definitely losing. You're not gaining anything from the points if you're
Mhm.
accruing interest. If you're using that much of your credit, then you're a risk, as I said. But if you can, as you start to open some more cards, well, each one is going to give you a available credit line, and that adds to your total available credit. But theoretically, your spending on a month-to-month basis wouldn't
Right.
go up proportionate to how many cards you have. It would be quite a bit lower. So then your percentage of used credit is way, way down. This actually has an effect of accelerating the growth of your credit score
Good stuff.
because yes, because you can have a very low credit utilization, which shows that you're a very safe lender for a bank. And that in turn, like I said, it can help your credit score really shoot up. So I just want to kind of debunk the notion that having multiple credit cards is bad for your credit. It
Right.
certainly can be, particularly if you're not paying them off in full every month. But as long as you do that and you kind of get to excuse me, if you get to a place of financial freedom where you don't have to worry about paying off your credit cards in full, then you can absolutely take advantage of these programs, which are there to, let you reap the rewards of your spending. So do that, do it responsibly. And if you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you prefer to interface with people online, and I'll try to help you out.
That's awesome. So, one piece of advice you would give those out there who are, one, not into social media, two, maybe scared to get into it, or three, um, don't know how to use social media?
Well, for what I do, being involved in media, it's a no-brainer. But I mean, I really think that these platforms, while they have their shortcomings, of course, and those have been well documented in recent months and years, these platforms allow you to have a broader voice, allow you to speak to more people. And ultimately, I think your presence on social media platforms, that is your resume. That is you projecting an image of yourself out to the world. And I mean, frankly, I think the days of it being quote unquote weird to Google someone that you just met, I mean, that should absolutely be in the past. You need to have a presence. I think it's a very effective way to tell your story and to make it easier for people to get to know you. Even if you have no interest in quote unquote being an influencer, having a social presence is a very valuable tool, and it's a great way to connect with people. And I've connected with you this way. I've connected with a lot of other people like you. And I think the longer we have this kind of demonization of social media, the more and more people are just going to be left in the dust. And now is a great time to get on board with these platforms. Sure, they're changing every day, every week, but just start posting content that you care about, tell a story that means something to you, and use these platforms to your advantage.
Well, guys, thanks for watching us. And Ian, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I know our time is pretty much up. I could talk to you forever, especially about traveling and your experiences. I'm sure they are, they're all equally as mind blowing as the first two that you told me about. But thank you so much. To find Ian, you can find him on YouTube. Where else?
Instagram, Twitter.
Instagram, Spotify, Twitter. On Instagram, you're Agrimis Adventures, right? And
Yeah, Agrimis Adventures.
but we'll have all your information in the caption. So you guys follow, subscribe, and friend him now. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, guys. Take care.